Hello, hello, hello. Here we are again. I'm Sonia Troiani. Nice to see you all again. I'm the creator of Mama, the project, the film that talks about motherhood, about moms, and today in particular, we want to celebrate International Women's Day, which is very felt in Italy. I don't know if you know this, but we've been celebrating since I can remember. My dad, when I was a little girl, used to come back home on Women's Day with a bunch of flowers called mimosa, which is not a drink, nice little yellow flowers. And then when I was a little bit older, it would have been my boyfriend doing that, and then my husband, but my husband's not here, so I've got a man. Have you got any mimosa for me today, Wayne?
I don't think so.
Hello everybody, here's Wayne Morgan. Wayne is the founder of Soul Destiny Production, which is the company, the production company that has become interested in Mama. And Wayne is also a counselor. He's been dealing with postnatal depression. He's been working with lots of women. But I'll leave you to introduce yourself and maybe tell us why you became interested in Mama and why you wanted to be part of this project.
Well, when I first started out working as a counsellor and working with families, it was a real passion of mine to help families get emotional stability in their environments. And so when I met Sonia, and she mentioned to me she was producing a documentary called Mama, and it was about postnatal depression. Well, I've been originally, in my first years of teaching and counselling, I was originally working with a lot of families based around postnatal depression, but not just with the woman, also with the men. Because personally I believe that the woman and the men are both contributing to the factor of depression in the environment that they exist in. And so I started working on different scenarios and different exercises that can be put into an environment to help balance that sort of emotional instability. And so, yeah, over a period of time, I did a number of trial cases with families, and the success was very, very, very good. And we went right through to children after they were born up to 2 years of age. Often children in today's society are developing labelled disorders, autism, ADHD and things like that. And I actually found a small connection between the postnatal depression and the depression in the household and the development of a child's conscious erratic behavioural patterns.
Yeah.
And I don't like calling them labelled disorders because most of those children I find are extremely intelligent. And if you're not stimulating them properly, particularly with information, but not just information, with the emotion that is attached to information, children become unstable very quickly. And just a quick scenario about being unstable. If, for example, you're on an aircraft and you're a mother and you have a baby, and that baby's crying on the aircraft, and obviously the passengers are becoming agitated. So that creates the mother to become agitated. So the baby then becomes more agitated because the baby's connected to the mother. And basically I was working on a principle where how can the mother stop that agitation and then protect her baby from the agitation that's coming in from the rest of the passengers. And I worked on a few exercises and put that into play. And yeah, they work well. And it's basically, the exercises are based on shape and colour. And so using shape and colour is like a focal point. So it's a sort of a basic meditation that you can use with yourself and your child by working with shapes and colour. So it's a distraction. So if you're on the plane and your baby's screaming, instead of getting agitated and worried about what the other passengers are thinking and doing, you just focus on shape and colour around yourself and the baby. And it has quite a powerful effect. And over the last probably 15 years I've been working in a lot of areas using shape and colour, from business organisations right through to family units. One of the biggest things in society is the instability of our emotional body across the board. It doesn't matter if it's in the home, in the workplace, but most instability generally does start in the home environment. And it's not just the woman, it is also the man.
Yeah. Now it's interesting, this scenario that you described of the plane, because while you were talking I was thinking about how many times as mothers we feel the pressure, you know, those eyes on us. How are we doing it? Are we doing it right? Is there something that we can improve? How are we being judged as mothers? How are we doing this? And I think that it's important that you separate from that kind of pressure and you don't feel the judgment, because the judgment often comes from the outside, but often comes from the inside, or from the parental figures. I've had my mum visiting and I've realized how the generational gap was in terms of mothering had, how things had changed, and how the mothering that she used to provide doesn't really fit my children. And I was, just thinking how much pressure we receive from the environment around us, from the people who are close to us, but also from society, and how we're always trying to get it right. And sometimes you just need to separate and you're right, just distracting from all this and just focusing on just the connection with the child. But some women can't do that because you're just taken by all this pressure.
Yeah, well, look, to tell you the truth, everyone can do it, but you need to actually learn to separate from external and internal. The judgment of our society is large, so emotional instability is based around a few factors with humans' consciousness: judgment, jealousy, neediness, fear. Okay, so those four emotional factors we will have within us. And any of those emotional factors that we send out of our body to someone else destabilizes our environment. Not the other people as much as ourselves. So we have to work backwards on balancing that. And again, one of the best balancing points is focus. So you just create a focal point. Okay, now that focal point needs to be coming from you, so you can't focus on, like I can't focus on you as the focal point. I need to focus on something within my own conscious structure. So the most simple thing for most humans to do is use shape and colour. Because shaping, it doesn't matter what shape it is, and it doesn't matter what colour it is. It's whatever comes to you as you're doing it. And so as you become emotionally unstable because of yourself and how you're thinking in the environment, all you need to go back to is just visualize shape and colour, visualize shape and colour. Now in a scenario where there's children involved, of course, you need to work with them as well. Some of the areas I work with, especially with families, are based around stabilising the environment. So first, before they conceive the baby, okay? So there is accident pregnancies, of course, but let's look at a pregnancy that isn't an accident and it's been planned. So you plan your pregnancy. So in that planning process, you need to be making sure you're both emotionally stable, because on the conception of the child, if you have emotional stability, the fetus will immediately be attached to the emotional stability of the DNA within the structure of the bodies, because that's what it is. And as the fetus grows, a soul appears within the fetus. And so when the soul appears within the fetus, it creates, for the mother, two souls. So the mother now has two sentient beings, I suppose, within her own structure, herself and the fetus. And as that fetus grows, one of the things about the baby, as it grows, it's absorbing. So it's an absorption process, but the mother's pushing outwards and the baby's pushing inwards. Yeah. So it can create an energy conflict of interest within the structure of the mother. And so it's really important that the mother manages and balances that out. And how you can do that is use, again, shape and colour projection. Now I do have set exercises that I give out to people to do so that they can structure that for themselves, and then work on that every time they're finding themselves becoming emotionally unstable. And if I move to the man's position in this, with a male, one of the biggest problems with men, they get so caught up with their lives and their problems, and they have to now support 3 beings instead of 2, and all that sort of stuff. They become very stressed. And one of the biggest things they can do is 2 main things. Always make sure they tell their woman that their woman is beautiful all the time, as much as possible, especially when the woman is pregnant, because the woman is pregnant, getting bigger, okay? And woman, just that alone has an instability for the woman. Yeah. And the second factor is to make sure that when they come home from work every day, that they leave their job at the door. And when they come into that environment, they're focused on their partner and their new baby that is growing. And they work together on that, and they do things together within their home environment based on the new baby, not based on what their own personal or their own selfish personal realities are. They need to realize that it's so important that that fetus, as it's absorbing information, it absorbs calm information, it absorbs focused information, and it absorbs a lot of information. Okay, now it's going to absorb a lot of information anyway. And most structure with a child, as they've conceived right through to about 7 years of age, their consciousness is absorbing around about 70 to 90% of their current environment. And that's not just what's being thought about, It's also what's being said. It's what they're hearing in the environment around them, what's on TV, the whole environment is an aspect of that. So it's really important that parents understand that their environment, as much as they can, needs to be as calm as it can, especially how the parents are thinking. Because even though the baby's inside the mother, the man's thought is attached to the mother. Okay? So it all goes round in a triangle. Now, if we go to a solo parent, in some ways, people will think a solo parent, it's harder, but in some ways it's actually easier, because you see, as long as, if you're a solo parent, and you're controlling your own emotions, it's easier because there's only two of you. So you're only creating one loop rather than three loops of thought and emotion, and so it's really important that people start to learn how to balance their emotional bodies. And it's really simple to do. One of the problems people find why they don't do it is because two things. One, they often don't believe, because our society teaches us to be external. Everything's a problem. But you see, as soon as you remove everything's a problem, it's not. And so you need to balance your consciousness out by doing simple things to yourself. With postnatal depression, I mean, there's lots of theories on the reality of how that's created. But again, from what I've seen and what I know of people, it's created by an emotional instability in every case I've seen. And I can identify that by talking to the parent with that, or both of them actually, and I can give them a list of questions that I can ask them that will identify the emotional instability wherever it started, where it lies. But again, I'll go back to the principal point. If you are going to conceive a baby under consent, you need to be prepared emotionally for that entire process. If you get pregnant and it's not consented, then you need to also immediately start preparing your consciousness for what's about to happen next. And the preparation of consciousness is about yourself, not others. So it's all about how you relate to you. How emotionally stable are you? Do you understand yourself enough to understand where your emotional body sits? Now, there's a lot of counsellors out here in the world that understand emotions, understand how to balance emotional instability, like yourself and myself. And so if you can't do it yourself and you don't understand the principles, you often will need to go and outsource some help and see if that can help you to stabilize.
Are you going to be able to share one of those exercises here right now, or
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, can you do that?
I can
Have you
share
got a
some.
simple one that maybe we can offer as a gift to the audience, to the fathers as well as the mothers?
Oh, look, it's everyone.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
everyone,
look, this is not just
absolutely.
about women. This is, from my perspective,
Yeah.
society is unstable, and it's not just women or men. It's all of us doing that. So to create our environment to become stable, we need to do something. So one of the exercises, some of the basic principles of exercises for humanity is we have points in the body that have power in them. Okay, and so there's 6 base points of the body, and each of those points are associated with colour, and they're associated with shape. The whole universe is made up of 3 things: shape, colour and numbers, or shape, colour and frequency. Everything in this whole planet is made up of those 3 things. So if you're using those 3 things to balance your consciousness out, one of the points that are really good to work with is the heart, of course. It's a powerful point. I associate it with the work I do with the colour green. So the exercise I recommend, particularly to mothers with children at the moment that are becoming emotionally unstable and crying a lot, and they're having a lot of problems with those children settling down, is to visualise green and put a pyramid within the colour and put it over the top of the child, so the child's inside the pyramid itself, or around yourself and the child, so you're both inside the pyramid. And what that does is it creates a heart energy, and that energy will then start to settle the child down. And you can try it. I mean, I've trialled this on over 1,000 people, so I know the effect that it has. Now, it might not have an immediate effect. You might have to work on it a little bit. Some people, I find around about 40% of the world's population can't visualise effectively anyway. So if you can't visualise shape and colour when your eyes closed, it's not going to have as much effect. But there's another exercise you can do, is you can actually draw a pyramid on a piece of paper and colour it in green, and you can hold it in front of your open eyes for a minute or so and slowly close your eyes on it and keep doing that over a period of days, and after a while that shape and colour will appear inside your mind, what I call your mind's eye, and then you can more effectively use your visual intent. Because if you look at life, we create our life by how we think. So if you want to create your life to be more stable, you need to work on also not how you think, is how you feel. So feel works more basically on the shape and colour factor. See, thinking is a number in a sense, feeling is a shape and colour. You see what I mean? And if you combine them together, then you'll have a lot more success in what you're doing in your life, whatever it might be actually. But from my perspective, I'm really focused on our new generation. I find that the older generation now is, from my perspective, and I don't want to be rude, are very brainwashed into current system reality that, from my perspective, has no reality whatsoever attached to it, because anything that has reality attached to it comes from you. It doesn't come from outside you. So if you're attaching yourself to reality that is around you, that isn't coming from you, from my perspective, that isn't reality. You have to learn how to attach yourself back to you and then create your reality to be pushed into the environment. And that's what the new generation are going to do, no matter what we do as adults. I've worked with youth for many, many years now, and they're very advanced, especially the ones who often get labelled with disorders. I call them blue stars. So it's just a label I made up myself, because they seem to be stars, and they're multi-coloured beings, little beings, and they're extremely intelligent. And in most cases, parents are finding that their children are coming out with things these days, in these generations, with information that they've never heard before. And these children are finding this where? You see, they're finding it within their own DNA structure.
Do you think that partly the struggle that Somali's experience is also in relation to this generation bringing a different way of being?
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
And as a parent myself, I know that unless you can learn to adapt to your child, your child does not need to adapt to you. And this is the problem. Our older society forces the child to be heard and not seen, or seen and not heard. Well, that time's finished. You know, it's time to see the child and listen to them very, very carefully. Because if they don't like something and it doesn't feel right to them, you should be taking very serious notice of that. Because then you'll be able to help them adjust their own emotional bodies before they become an adult, and then they're unstable as well, you see. Because we're tracking instability. Okay, so as a parent, if I'm unstable, my children in most cases will become unstable. But what's unstable, you see? How do you look at that as a definitive factor? Well, you can't. So the only way you can really look at it is how you feel, you see? So if I feel good, and I'm good, and my child feels good, then we're good. It's simple as that. If I don't feel good, I've got to work out why I don't feel good. My child can't do that. Their cognitive behavioural patterning at that time doesn't have that reality attached to it until that age of it. So basically it's my responsibility as a parent to making sure that I'm feeling good more often than I'm not. Now, of course I'm going to feel not good often, but if I come into my child's environment, I've got to make sure I remove the factors that are creating me not to feel good, because it's not, otherwise I'm creating the child to be responsible for the problem I've created somewhere else that isn't associated with my parenting.
Yeah, and it's something that needs to be learned. I'm just thinking that it's not always so easy for people to have that clarity and realize and detach from that situation that is triggering some emotional instability. So it's really about creating some kind of practice and learning a few tips and a few lessons so that they can put that into place in their daily life with their children. Because, you know, people are often unaware of what they're experiencing, and they just find themselves in an emotional imbalance without even realizing they are, and then they act on it, and things just go downhill, and they don't know who to talk about it with and how to address it. And I think it's really important that actually you're giving these tips today. Thank you for that. We haven't really planned this, so it's amazing actually that you're giving some tools here, because that's all we need. We need some tools. So we're struggling with this, we can talk about it, we share it, we verbalize it, and we receive the support, because the support is there. Do you do classes with parents? Have you got something that maybe you can share with the audience tonight about things that you do.
In a class. I actually
Yeah.
I have a class coming up in New Zealand starting next Monday evening. It's a 10-week course.
For parents,
For anyone.
for anyone.
It's based on creating emotional stability in your life, if it's within your family structure, within your business structure.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter, because emotional stability then is emotional stability.
Yeah.
Everything else is off the back of that.
Mm.
You see what I mean? So I don't run it particularly I run it for anyone who wants to show up.
Yeah,
The structure is all the same. If it's for parents, if it's for individuals, if it's for a CEO of a company that's lost the plot,
yeah.
it doesn't really matter, because as soon as someone can balance their emotion, then they're in control of who they are, and then their mind will start to settle down, because the mind is so busy. It's where the imbalance mostly is, but the mind is attaching to the feeling, and the feeling is the emotion, and the emotion attaches back to the mind, and as it goes in a loop, you get lost in the loop. So the tools that I've created over the last 25 years can help people to help themselves get out of that loop. So I have a course starting on Monday, a 10-week course, and it will be the only one this year I'll be running in New Zealand, because I'm actually very busy outside New Zealand for the rest of this year. So, and it's limited space, so if anyone is interested tonight attend.
We'll have the link attached. Perfect. No, that's amazing. Thank you very much for that, because every time there's a woman connecting with me and sharing their experience of unhappiness and struggle, and I always say challenges are here to teach us something and to give us an opportunity for growth, but I also realize that you need the support to go through that growth, otherwise it's just a struggle and you can get lost in it. And I've seen so many people getting lost in that type of struggle, trying to find solutions that they think there could be shortcuts, but they're not getting anywhere, and years later they're maybe on antidepressants and still with the same issues, and they haven't sorted out anything. And I feel really sorry for those women, because there is another way. There is a way of looking into that imbalance and see what it's actually happening. I've had so many clients who said, well, I just thought it was just a hormonal imbalance. And yes, I know that hormones play a role as well, but I've also learned in all these years of practice that sometimes there's so much more than what's happening physiologically that we don't look at, because it's so much easier to say, okay, this is just what's happening to my body and it's normal. And we tend to normalize things that we don't need to keep normal. We need to spot out that it's not normal and resolve it and go into a different type of normality, which equals happiness and joy and fun and being chilled and relaxed and playing with our children without having those murderous feelings inside our heads, which are so common. But women don't talk about it. It's such a taboo. How can you say that? It's quite a scary thought, isn't it? So nobody verbalizes it, and you think, oh my God, there's something wrong in me. I'm going to kill my children. I can't tell anybody that I felt that. But you're not going to kill your child. You're just going to feel a little bit imbalanced, but then you can get the support, you can share it with other women, you can go to the professionals and move away from that emotional situation into a better one. So there are ways. So just get in touch with us and let us know if you're struggling, because we're here to help, and we're here to hear these stories and make them more public.
Hey guys, donate to Mama. And help,
yes, donate to Mama as well.
And help us out, because you know what? There's very few documentaries of this type currently in the world, and it's extremely important that people start to become more aware that they can actually help themselves. It's actually not that hard. Most people think it's hard, so that's the first stepping stone that they block themselves with, and it's a delusion. Nothing is hard in your life, everything is easy. You only create the reality of hardness because you perceive you can't do something. And you know what? We're humans, we can do anything. We're a very powerful being that exists within ourselves, and it has the ability to create whatever it wants. But you have to believe in that. So the tools that myself and Sonia work with will help you to start to create the belief in yourself. And that is one of the first stepping stones to creating change in your own reality. And if your parents out there, or you're considering conceiving a baby, please look at yourselves and see how emotionally stable you are. One of the real biggest tools you can figure for yourselves is how emotionally stable you are is how often do you feel good? And each day, if you write down when you feel good, and you figure out how often that is in the day, maybe an hour, maybe 5 hours, I'll give you a clue. In a 24-hour period, if you do not feel good for more than 7 hours, you are not good, and you need to start addressing that. And you need to look at it. Each time you don't feel good, you need to go into yourself and have a look at what is the point that is creating that not good feeling. And I know it's hard. You know, to go inside your own self to look at why you're not feeling good is a very difficult thing for most humans to do. And they often will try and avoid that and create a false feeling on the outside. But I'll guarantee you one thing. If you do that, then you will become more emotionally unstable. And our society is not exactly the most balanced society anymore. And so it's all about us as individuals. One thing I would also say is the people who are around you, who are your support structure, it's very important that you have like-minded people around you. And gossip, stinky thinking, judgment, people being jealous of you, these are very, very negative emotions, and they will lower your feel-good considerably. So the other things I do in my counselling is when I get people, I ask them to write all their friends down, and I ask them to say what value has each of those friends got to do with them inside their own relationship, and value each of the people around you. And then you can value yourself in how you sit in your own environment. And it's very important that you have a value in yourself, and how you can see value in yourself is by looking around yourself of how much value you have around you. And I'm not talking money. I'm talking the value of someone's support, the value of how you support someone else, the value of how you support someone else's child. If you're looking after someone else's children, how are you valuing yourself doing that? And are you doing that with a lot of value, and you're putting a lot of support in there? Especially if, say, the parents are having a struggle with their children, but you're actually a bit more stable. Are you working in that environment and helping? Because you know, in this life, if you give, you will receive. But if you're so busy taking everything around you, you will never receive the balance that you look for.
Okay. Thank you very much for that, Wayne. Again, donate for Mama. We are going to move to another platform sometime soon, but we will keep going with the crowdfunding, so we need everybody's support.
Donate, guys.
Donate.
It's good for everybody. It's good for our society to have things like this out there, so people can learn how to help themselves. Because remember, you can only help yourself.
Yeah. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next week with somebody else coming as a guest to our lives. Thank you, and bye-bye.